How old are you and what is the biggest problem in your life right now? My father and my sister were both alcoholics. They say there's gene that runs in some families that makes them more susceptible to alcoholism. I also may have that gene, so when I turned 34 I made a conscious effort to quit smoking and give up the use of alcohol. I'm 75 now, over 40 years sober and able to breathe. I just know, had I not straightened things out, I'd be as dead as my father and sister. One day at a time, my friend. It's not easy, but you have to keep your goal in sight. All the best. May 10th, 2019. I was turning into the end of my street when a dump truck rear-ended me, pushing me head-on into oncoming traffic where I hit another car. The dump driver was texting and never hit his brakes. He was going 60 miles per hour. Technically I was dead. A cop was 2 cars back. He pulled me from the wreckage and performed CPR, reviving me. I was medevaced away. I remained in a coma for 42 days where I expired twice more. I awoke to be a paraplegic. Edit. To all who read this, I'm doing fine. I have a strong support system. Just think of it as I'm on the right side of the grass and got to retire early. Hi. I have been helping people with disabilities for 25 years and have some disabilities myself. I would love to connect you with some great resources and some friends who have been where you are and have moved on to great jobs, deep loving relationships and being at peace with, or even grateful for their injury. It's all good. I have an excellent support system. My wife was raised to help me. Her GF was in a chair and then the man she worked for daily for 20 years was in a chair. Plus we are not afraid to ask. I'm a regular on our spinal cord injuries. I'm 53 and I'm currently locked in my bedroom to keep away from my mom, 79. With Alzheimer'/dementia because she's raging at me, hitting me and throwing and breaking things because I told her to not put anything but water in the coffee maker. It's the 3rd machine she's fried in 2 months by pouring in coffee with cream, sugar. Edit. Wow. I woke up this morning to such an incredible outpouring of support. I'm in tears of the good kind. Thank you all so much for the comments, awards, and specific support suggestions. I don't even know how to express my gratitude. I'm going to try and reply to as many as I can. Hugs to all of you. I'm currently my grandma's caregiver because my aunts, uncle and parents can not longer handle her dementia. It's really difficult to have someone you love deteriorate before your eyes and experience their abuse because they're frustrated and confused. My grandma hit me with her cane because she thought I was a stranger in my apartment. I've had neighbors intervene because they thought I was abusing her when I held her arms back because she was hitting me. We've tried putting her in a home but she ran away twice and the facility kicked her out. Now the family keeps their distance and I'm the intermediary for them and my grandma. I volunteered and I regret it sometimes. I'm sorry you have to lock yourself in. Big hug to you. If she ran away from the facility twice then they weren't equipped for her at all. Most places for dementia/Alzheimer's patients have locked, coded doors. The best you can do is to walk away if they try to hit you. I had one client chase me around in a circle. She was using her walker, so it was a really slow chase. The client ended up giving up and then we decided to have a snack. It is very, very difficult to deal with though, and I know it must be super hard because you're alone. Finally, you should never, ever have to touch your agitated loved one. You can use these techniques here in this link. You may think it sounds crazy, but as long as you keep distance between you and your agitated loved one, you can generally take their mind off whatever made them angry, and then change the subject. It isn't easy at first, but with practice, you will never have to touch them. Remember that old people are delicate and bruise easy, so that's why these techniques were developed. Redirection works pretty good. My 95-year-old grandmother has Alzheimer's and is nearing her end. A few years ago she was stuck on my wife and I having breakfast and we kept declining. I decided to try a different tactic. So I told her that I already had breakfast. She became slightly agitated and challenged me about what I had. My answer of eggs and toast satisfied her, and that was the last that we heard of breakfast. Maybe you could get rid of the coffee maker and get a Keurig with a refillable pod. My aunt has been caring for her, but the toll has been immense. It sounds bad, but I wish she would just go to sleep and not wake up. 53. Just discovered prostate cancer and in work we have employee cooperation negotiations. They're getting rid of 20% of workers. But I have been in job interview to other place and it's promising, and because prostate cancer is the most common cancer for men, they have studied it quite a lot and it's easy operation. So I'm quite optimistic. Edit 1. I feel overwhelmed by gratitude. Thanks everyone. I can survive this. At work, I haven't spoken of my cancer, because everyone is afraid of losing their jobs. We confront each other and I for one listen and care when people are telling me privately how they fear for their jobs. We support each other. Soon I have to tell them, when I'm going to operation. I have talked about cancer to my family and close friends. I need their support. And I have got that. For all men there, go get checked your prostate etc. In time. I almost went too late. You can search info of these things quite easily if you are aware. Again, thank you for your support. I'm grateful. Edit 2. As lots of professionals here say, prostate cancer is one of the easiest to treat. I agree totally. What I wrote was my answer to the question. Lots of answers here to Op's question are more severe cases. Please support them as well. They deserve to be noticed. I am 31. Been dealing with appendix cancer for over a decade. I have an ostomy and just recently my kidneys failed, so now I'm dealing tubes in my kidneys so they can regain their function. The kidneys failed because urine and bacteria was being backed up in the ureter due to the cancer distorting it. All my bodily functions are now done through external means and it's a lot to process. Ironically, the cancer is the best thing. I'm considered legally disabled and don't have to work. Yeah, I get a limited amount of money each month on disability, but not being tied to a career and having to go to work every day, I have pretty much unlimited time to pursue hobbies or activities I wouldn't be able to do otherwise. There are some days where I'm bored out of my mind and wish I had something to pull me away so I could look forward to things, but the positives outweigh those days. Oh yeah. I'm also not really in much pain, so I'm super lucky there. And since my case is incredibly rare, appendiceal carcinoma, with only a couple specialists in the world, I am indirectly a significant part of multiple cancer research studies, so that's cool. 17. My mom died a few months ago, and ever since, I feel like I can't get the person I once was back. I can hardly deal with school on top of everything else going on in life, but dropping out isn't an option. I feel like I have almost no grip on my life anymore, yet life keeps on going. I feel like I'm gonna drown while fighting to keep getting up in the morning. I'm really sorry. My dad died when I was 16 and I know how you feel. It gets better though. Trust me. Unfortunately, it just takes time. I wrote whole notebooks full of thoughts. I'd just write constantly. It helped to get it out of me and somewhere else. I hope you find something that will help you through it as well. My dad died in an failed murder-suicide. He only achieved the latter. All I can see is to get through it any way you can. I dove super hard into school to try to distract myself from the nightmare situation I was left with. It took a long time for what happened to sink in and for me to fully realize its effects. When you feel like you're ready to deal with them, deal with them. If you can put them aside enough to finish school, I would. Just because I know getting your adult diploma afterwards is not easy if you have a job or mental health to take care of, but if you have that route, don't be afraid to take it if you think it would be better for you. Things will get better. Just take it one day at a time. If you told me a few years ago I'd go from almost being murdered to the happiest I'd ever been in my life in 5 years, I wouldn't believe you. But life just works that way sometimes, one day at a time. I'm so sorry. I lost my dad recently too. Although I'm a little older than you, the person you used to be will never come back 100%. But it does get better. You will get better at coping, and that person will come back 97%. I say this next part as a teacher. Please talk to your teachers. They can be understanding and flexible. Help them know what you need to finish, whether it's more time or to be able to just walk out of class because you started crying out of nowhere. Let others support you in the little ways they can. I'm so sorry. No 17-year-old should have to cope with this, but it does get better. Recently had an epiphany that I thought I'd share. I set very ambitious goals for myself, and sometimes I can accomplish them and it brings me enormous pride. But I've had to examine my goals recently and really consider who they are for. Are they for me? Or are they to show an ex that he fucked up? Or to look as if I'm at a status that I think other people would be impressed by? Goals are good, but make sure they are really about you. And don't squander your self-image if you don't reach them in record time. I'm going to hit you with some wild facts right now. So that lyric has driven me crazy for years. Why is it suckin' on chili dog and not suckin' on a chili dog? And why the fuck is he sucking on it? What possessed him to write such a bizarre lyric? As it turns out, he isn't referring to a chili dog but to the mascot of Slush Puppy Chili Dog, which makes sense since he's sitting outside a tasty freeze. It's tough when you're around your age, mid to early 20s. A lot people expect you to have your life figured out. What career? In a relationship, the rest of your life figured out. It is not so, and it's very damaging to a lot of people who aren't there, which is almost everyone. You'll find a job, hopefully one that you enjoy to some degree. You make money slowly, and along with that start to get a better idea of what you like doing, or don't like doing. Friends come in time. Some you meet from work, some you lose after a while, whether it's your choice or theirs. Along the way you meet people you really click with. Just don't let the expectations of life weigh you down. Try and keep a good attitude, and something I cannot stress enough is talk to someone if you feel you need it. There is no shame in it, not even in a little bit of shame. If you can't find someone around you, try and find a good therapist. They can be invaluable. Some you won't get along with, so when you go to see one, think of it as you interviewing them. If you don't get a good vibe or you don't feel comfortable for whatever reason, then find someone else. Sorry this got to be so long. I just know where you're coming from. It wasn't until my early 30s that things started to fall into place. As someone who is 30, they got better for me. At about 27 my career started taking shape. I moved away from my more general admin roles and was able to specialize. Around the same time I got married, bought a house, etc. I think the 10 years of work is long enough to get stable and start shaping how things are gonna be longer term, or at least that was how it was for me. 39. And a complete and utter belief that I am a useless piece of shit who lacks the necessary skills to make it in this dismal and miserable world we live in. The hospital referred me to an outpatient program. We'll see if they can help me find a reason. For what it's worth, my suicide would ruin my mom, so it's not something I actively think about for now. I'm just miserable 100% of the time and honestly cannot remember what happy feels like. Okay, rant over. Thanks for asking. Feels a bit better to write it down. A. The early 20s can be rough. You are barely an adult, but all else being equal, you are expected to be enough of an adult to be financially responsible for yourself. If you did go to university, you probably just finished it and you have that wonderful combination of lots of debt with no practical job experience. Also, if you have moved for either your education or your job, your immediate social circle has just dispersed in a way that makes sustaining any kind of social life difficult. And unlike university or high school, your peers no longer share a same general schedule. My only advice would be this: do not go looking for a relationship while thinking of it as a way to fix your life or something you need to make you happy. Just work on finding a way to do the things you know you want to do. Getting into a worthwhile relationship is a hell of a lot easier when you're not reeking of "fuck my life, I am so lonely and everything is awful" desperation. If you can at least get to a point where you are generally content with your life, adding a worthwhile relationship will be easier. End communication. 24 And in a direct situation from your description, military life has many benefits, but the deafening loneliness and isolation are some of the most mentally straining emotions I've ever experienced. You move every 2-4 years, so RIP social circle. If you're single, you have to move all by yourself. So much stress in just the act of moving, let alone by yourself. If you're overseas, you now have a culture barrier to cross. If you're away from home, have fun sitting in your lonely house during Christmas, Thanksgiving, making friends with all these barriers in the way just makes existing exhausting sometimes. 15. My father died a year ago from brain cancer and nobody cared, and still nobody cares, and that made me and still makes me feel lonely and sad. P.S. Guys, sorry if I write so bad. Edit 1. Guys, THX for all the support, you are truly making me happy. All the people telling his experience and other only caring a bit about me made me the day. THX. 33, severe depression, alcoholic, just learned I lost my job today. Edit. Wow, I really didn't expect this. I just wanted to say thank you to everyone who took the time to respond. Next week I'm starting ketamine therapy for my severe depression, which is what led me to alcohol in the first place. I was diagnosed at a very young age and have tried every medication you can imagine. Today is day 5 for me without a drink. Despite what a shit day it's been, I know that drinking would have only made things worse. It always does. I hope to get into therapy as soon as I have a steady income again. My fiancée went to college for 5 years to become a sign language interpreter. She graduated and immediately went into an early childhood center and is completely in love with her job. What I'm getting at is, you may be fully set to do one thing, put in all the time and effort, blood, sweat and tears, and then finally get to the end of it to find out that you wanted to do something that you didn't even think of as an option. If that happens to you, do not let anyone make you feel like you wasted time getting where you end up. Thank you so much for saying this. I went to school for 6 years, including grad school, to become an occupational therapist. I graduated into the pandemic and I cannot get a job of any kind. The medical world is so effed up right now, and I have very little practical experience. So I'm also getting turned down for jobs I apply for that are really entry-level non-medical jobs. I've been feeling so guilty and defeated for working so hard to get my master's and license and finding out that the work environment is terrible and no one will hire me anyways. Everyone from my parents to all the people around me in my life are upset with me and think I'm just not trying hard enough to apply for jobs and am just too lazy to work. I'm really struggling. Skeptical. I'm 57. Have 4 children who are independent and self-sustaining, but my youngest, 26F, lives in Fort Worth and is really struggling to make ends meet. I make enough to pay my bills and pay her phone, insurance, and occasional electric bill, but not much more. I offered to let her come back to our small town till she can get back in her feet and make a new plan. She's been laid off for a few months and despite inability to make rent and basic bills, she won't. She's delivering food to make groceries and gas, but won't think of returning to this little town she calls a living death. So my biggest worry is her. I would never tell her BC I don't want to put undue stress on her, but I lose sleep worrying about her. I want to save her and protect her, but I can't and she won't let me. She's as stubborn as her mom. She has an interview today, so if anyone could pray to their higher power, she won't know it. But I will and I thank you.